Hey everybody, LilyPie101 here again with another YouTube video for a discussion. This time today's topic is bullying in DBD real? Now I know some people are probably going to be like, okay, well it's not real bullying, just turn off the computer essentially. But in DBD, a shared and common sentiment among players is that it is an us versus them. In terms of literal gameplay, of course. However, there's been a new wave of players that say they're playing for their fun, not yours. Or they bought the game so they can play it however they want, which is true, but where does the line get drawn at exactly? I'm a firm believer that either side can be toxic to one another or like bullying, etc. Survivors to killers and killers to survivor, but primarily I see killers throw lines out like that as killers to power role. Obviously they can be much more oppressive by dictating how a match goes. So after, being around DBD for quite some time now, not just in game, but as a streamer, also Reddit, like the forums, and even Twitter, etc. There's a couple of things among players that are just kind of generally accepted as kind of like toxic or bullying, and these are some of the following. Flashlights, Sabo and Breakout, or Mither squads, you've got dead hard, body blocking, you've got teabagging or other gesturing like nodding or pointing or like the come here motion. You've got NOED, tunneling, you've got map offerings, being hit on hook, camping, Moris, just a few to name some. But I think I'm going to talk about some of them that are, I guess, a little bit more controversial because, I'm basically on DBD all the time as a full-time content creator, so I've seen a lot of these on, Twitter, Reddit, the forums, even in-game, so I guess we're just going to go ahead and dive into it. And keep in mind, when I'm explaining this part, I'm going to try to be as least biased as possible, even though I know I'm your favorite entitled survivor main. But let's go ahead and get started. Anyways, so when it comes to different Swift squads and whatnot, obviously I think playing with friends is an immense amount of joy. I think playing in solo queue, it can be fun as well, but oftentimes the unpredictability of it and relying on other people solely is it can be very frustrating because I've had a lot more unfortunate situations happen with solo queue than I have obviously with playing with my friends who I trust. And I just don't do it simply because I want to bully the kill or anything. I just don't want to sit there and hold M1 on a gen for over 90 seconds. That's not something that I really enjoy. Obviously, I've never really liked doing gens. It's just unconventional gameplay. It feels rewarding. It feels cool to pull off something that's a little bit difficult. And it's not just to make sure that I bully the kill or anything like that. I just find it fun. And obviously I can acknowledge that it might be a little bit frustrating for killer, but to be honest, I think going against it makes you a little bit of a better killer because you learn how to avoid these things in the future. And even then, when I get outplayed by a killer from time to time again, when I'm trying to do these flashy tricks and stuff like that, it just makes it so much more fun because it's a lot more engaging than just holding M1 on a gen. I don't really feel like I'm outplaying or really doing much by holding M1 on a gen. And it's even better whenever I play as killer with these juicer squads because as survivor, obviously I do the same thing, so I can understand the fun in it, so I don't really get as frustrated as I used to, but it also feels really good to outplay those things because I'm okay, well I know what they're gonna do now, so here we go. But even then, there may be some times where I get outplayed because of it, and it just happens to be more fun because of the uniqueness, the interactions, there's so much more going on to it. I also think something that should be talked about is also, I guess, NOED. I know NOED is typically seen as an unfair perk, but you have basically the duration of 5 gens or so to make it so that you actually cleanse the totem, but on top of that, you also have the in-game where you can see the aura of it revealed after about 30 seconds from when it's revealed, I believe. But if you just so happen to go down next to it and, during in-game the killer doesn't leave, it is what it is situation, but some killers may feel like they need it in their build, but also some of them play on the chance that survivors will, just not cleanse it, and that's the funny thing, sometimes it actually works. Tunneling and camping is also a huge one, but I don't think always killers do it on purpose. I think sometimes people will get themselves camped, or sometimes your teammates will get them camped, or sometimes you can get yourself tunneled. And here's what I mean by this. I think if you have BT after just getting off of the hook and then you decide to body block the killer from going after the person that was unhooking you, the killer is probably going to end up tunneling you because it seems like you want to get chased again. Or if you try to force your DS is literally a 2-second stun now, so after that 2 seconds is over, I hope you've got enough distance gained because I'm probably going to go after you again. It seems like you wanted to be chased, so let's go ahead and get chased. Same thing goes with camping. I think if a teammate decides to sit there and loop around you, I have no choice but to chase them, right? I get to secure second state or even your death in the game. And again, why would I necessarily deny that? I don't really have a reason to leave. That's not me doing it maliciously, but those events just happen. Obviously, this is like an excluded scenario. I was using this as B-roll footage, but I mean, this guy's camping and he's not doing it for like any specific reason other than just to kind of BM, I guess. Like, I didn't really BM him. There's nobody around my hook or anything like that. He's also hitting me on hook as well and like sawing me. So I'm assuming he's pretty angry at me. So again, like, this is probably malicious, but I mean, hey, if that's what he wants. I also think map offerings are also sometimes misunderstood because I think a lot of the times survivors will bring maps that are like purely comforting to them. I never realized how survivor-sided Madam was, but it was one of my favorite maps for the longest. But then I slowly understood why it was so hated whenever I started getting it as killer, but I was not very knowledgeable of that. There are also some killers that will bring map offerings just because they bring comfort to them. Like for me personally, sometimes I think I would prefer playing on Auto Haven whenever I'm playing Spirit and whatnot. Not necessarily for like a huge advantage or anything, it's just something that like is a little bit easier for me, especially considering how hard RNG can be at times, or the amount of palette filled maps that I could normally have that I don't really feel like dealing with. There are also some puntresses that will prefer cold wind maps because of the open areas, especially rotten fields and whatnot. So those things exist. This is also somewhat of a newer one, but hitting on hook I don't think is always malicious either. There are some people that cannot stand certain screams of survivors, and considering this new update, a lot of the survivor screams are very, very long, and it makes it hard to pay attention to details around the hook or across the map and whatnot if I'm listening out for stuff, so sometimes I will hit the survivor on hook to shut them up. But it's not because I'm hating the person on hook, or it's not because, you know, I'm wanting to be malicious. Sometimes it just annoys me. Body blocking is also another hot topic. A lot of killers will think that survivors are doing it just like bully and things like that, but no, sometimes I feel like there are killers that realize maybe this person is on death hook. Again, killers can only see the amount of hooks that they have, not the particular hook on each person, so going off of memory, sometimes you may forget, oh, this person's dead on hook, and I am actually guilty of that. Sometimes I try to let survivors go, but I don't realize that they're dead on hook, and I'm like, damn, why are these survivors body blocking me? Those kinds of things, and then I realize, oh, this person was dead on hook. Or alternatively, maybe they just have a challenge to take protection hits, or maybe they just want to try to be altruistic overall, just to get the game up. Now, there are some cases where I guess there could be actual bullying in DBD, but these are more so things that basically serve no purpose in DBD. So let's talk about them. So for starters, bringing a certain map, but with boil over. This could be maps like Ormond or Dead Dog, where, you know, the survivor brings the map offering, and once they've gotten down, they like to crawl to a specific area where when you pick them up, they cannot be taken to a hook. Super frustrating, super annoying. Hiding and stealthing as a survivor is also one. I guess this sort of depends because I don't think people always do it maliciously, but dragging a game out to the point where it has been over 15 to 20 minutes just hiding because you don't want to lose, definitely no purpose, definitely making it so that everybody's miserable. This one is also probably going to be controversial, but I think specifically targeting, specifically because somebody's like P100 or streamer, maybe a marginalized group, those kinds of things, specifically camping, tunneling, for those exact reasons, doesn't really serve a purpose other than just trying to be miserable, trying to be rude, things like that. Just weird. And like I said, I can understand some of the reasons that I gave earlier for camping and tunneling, and I'm fine with those, but in cases where people do get unfairly targeted, like I've got a fair share of experiences with it, I do find that to be an issue particularly. But as a content creator, of course I can go next as many times as I want, but I just kind of feel for the people that just have ordinary lives, 9 to 5, and they don't have much time to play DBD, or maybe they can only play on the weekends. This one is a little more funny to me because it's been happening so much more often, but not picking up a survivor or bleeding a survivor out. I could understand if I were to like crawl to a corner, or if a survivor crawls to an unhookable area, or again like with a boil over, but I have been getting bled out simply for, I guess, just looping, or I guess trying to resist against the killer by any means. And again, I'd understand if I had boil over, or maybe if I crawled to a corner, or if I was in an area with no hooks, but that's simply not the case most of the time. And it's also extra frustrating because Unbreakable Base Kit has not been added in yet, and Unbreakable itself is one-time use. But when they're bleeding you out, typically it's towards the end of the match anyway, so Unbreakable will probably already be used at that point. But in addition to that, it's also just serving no purpose other than just a killer being angry at a survivor for whatever reason that might be. This goes for both sides, but noise spamming in DBD. So survivors, when they get frustrated, jumping in and out of a locker, or alternatively going through the entire map and just throwing down every single pallet. Killers, maybe they hit on hook over and over again, but especially with Stabiffle, or for example, like Trickster with his knives, very irritating, no real purpose, just weird. It's just super, super annoying to me. This one hasn't been as popular lately, but being held hostage in corners. So basically, I think we all know like the upstairs gym area on Hawkins. I remember the amount of times I would get body blocked by a killer there, or maybe like the secret little hallway on Midwich, getting body blocked there by a killer when they open up one entrance and then come right behind you and just stand. Or maybe even cleansing a totem in a corner, the killer gets behind you, and that's just it. At least whenever you're playing killer, if the survivor decides to body block you, you can hit through them. Frustrating, but at least you lose collision, you can go through them. Now, I think this one, regardless of bias, everybody hates. Sometimes they can be funny, but hackers. So a lot of the times you get serious hackers, like they load into a game, they immediately finish all gens, or sometimes they go around, they scream, or like the forever stuns, or the insta-blind of flashlights that just last forever and a day, those kinds of things. But there are some funny hackers that are out there, they'll like do meme stuff and like fly around, blah blah blah, but for the most part, they are pretty bad. I haven't seen a lot of hackers recently, and it's not been nearly as bad since about, I guess, September, October of like last year, but I guess I've been slowly seeing them on the rise, but not nearly as bad as they used to be. Okay, I retract my statement because I got DDoS the other day, but I got a funny clip out of it. Okay, So that just about sums up bullying in DBD as a whole for me. But regardless, people can and are going to play how they want, but there's definitely a difference between that and kind of just playing to be annoying or like being a dick. I've also noticed that people that preach that line about, their fun and whatnot, often get upset when they realize their version of fun makes others miserable, causing them to DC, go next, or be annoyed. So yeah, just because you're entitled to play how you want doesn't mean the other side has to like it, find it fun, or even sit through it, and that goes for both sides, honestly. And I may be a firm believer that people are entitled to DC when they want as well, but that doesn't mean that I can't get annoyed at it. I can understand it at times for sure, but like my previous video, I think mitigating the effects of DCing would probably be more beneficial in cases like this. Nonetheless, that is the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think down below. Make sure to subscribe, and I will try to upload the next video soon. Take care. Hello. I don't even... What?
Body check を受けた時にちょっと借りてきたんです。
I got you, Miss Clara.
こんなものが存在していたとは。